The Israeli state has publicly declared that it has ethnically cleansed Gaza. Two things here. This is straight from the horse's mouth. It is, as you'll hear, unambiguous. So where are all the headlines in the Western media exposing what is, according to international law, one of the gravest crimes? Instead, there is far more coverage defending racist Israeli hooligans who violently rampaged in the streets of Amsterdam. Yet those who argued that Israel intended to permanently drive Palestinians from their homes have been defiled and demonized as anti-Semitic extremists. Israel was simply interested in defending itself, we were told. Yet last week, the Israel Defense Forces declared they were getting closer to the complete evacuation of northern Gaza, as they put it, and declared that residents would not be allowed to return home. IDF Brigadier General Itzik Cohen told Israeli newspapers there is no intention of allowing the residents to return to their homes. He also declared that humanitarian aid would no longer be allowed in the north because there are no more civilians left. That isn't true and is simply justification for Israel's genocidal policy of starvation. It gets worse. While the Western media fails to accurately describe and condemn and outline what Israel has literally confessed to, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz has declared it. They are offering the sort of accurate coverage we don't even have here. They published an editorial with the headline, "Netanyahu's ethnic cleansing in Gaza is on display for all to see." The editorial opens with the Israeli military is conducting an ethnic cleansing operation in the northern Gaza Strip. It details the forced removal of Palestinians, the destruction of homes and infrastructure, and wide roads being built which complete the separation of the communities in the northern strip from the centre of Gaza City. According to Yaniv Kubovich, Haaretz's military correspondent, who just did a tour of the area with Israeli forces, the area looks like it was hit by a natural disaster. As Haaretz notes, what Kubovich saw, however, was not a natural disaster, but rather a premeditated act of human destruction. They hold, Haaretz, Benjamin Netanyahu responsible for what they say correctly are the war crimes committed by the IDF in the northern strip. They say the plan is the expulsion of the Palestinians, the destruction of their homes, and preparations on the ground for a prolonged occupation and Jewish settlement. Now, 4 days before that, Haaretz had declared in another editorial that Israel is unleashing an apocalypse in northern Gaza. Yet we were repeatedly told all the way through that claims made by opponents of this hideous onslaught of ethnic cleansing were hateful lies. Indeed, just to put this all in perspective, in terms of the horror being unleashed, which our media fails to accurately convey. The UN's most senior humanitarian official, Joyce Mzia, declared on the 26th of October that the entire population of North Gaza is at risk of dying. She added, such blatant disregard for basic humanity and for the laws of war must stop. Like, what do senior officials have to say for their warnings to become major headline news? She's literally declared the entire population of North Gaza is at risk of death, itself indicative of genocide. The evidence is everywhere about the nature of Israel's genocidal campaign. Last week, the UN's Human Rights Office released analysis of verified Palestinian deaths. They found 70% of verified victims over a 6-month period were women and children. They found specifically that 44% of the verified deaths were kids. The age most represented, they declared, in these deaths killed by Israeli violence were between 5 and 9. They said the data showed an apparent indifference to the death of civilians and the impact of the means and methods of warfare. Now, Philippa Greer, a human rights lawyer and head of legal at UNRWA, the UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency, posted a video from within Gaza with this description. Today, entering Gaza City, the ruins of life, a donkey lying dead attached to a cart with someone's possessions, clusters of people crossing to the south with too much to walk with under the sun and given the length of the journey, a man carrying a white flag in front of his family, women about to collapse, dragging bags over the ground, walking backwards, stopping and closing their eyes, a man on the ground in underwear with soldiers near the checkpoint, a woman presumably crossing with him, stalled, distraught in desperation. They pass by these ruins. Let's take a look at some of the footage she took. Now, we were told that there was a pogrom on the streets of Amsterdam after Israeli football hooligans attacked bystanders in the streets, tore down Palestinian flags and set them on fire, rampaged around the city clutching iron bars, and chanted genocidal bile and genocidal songs, including glorifying the mass killing of Palestinian children.
Oh, ze jatten allemaal pallets uit elkaar. Ze lopen nu met houten planken.
Hey bro.
Ze lopen gewoon met wapens.
If that qualifies as a pogrom, what does this qualify as in Gaza? But here's the thing. The official narrative, the respectable elite narrative, will not budge. It doesn't matter how blatant the war crime, how depraved the atrocity. It doesn't matter how much evidence there is that Israel is guilty of an abomination of historic proportions. That official narrative will not shift. It's a de facto cartel where media outlets and politicians refuse to acknowledge the reality of the horror Israel has unleashed against the people of Gaza. If a state hostile to the West had done what Israel has done to the Palestinian people, Western media outlets and politicians would rightly be denouncing that as one of the worst crimes of our age. I mean, let's be honest, the West would have gone to war against such a state many months ago. So instead, the official narrative of defending Israel's quote-unquote right to defend itself with some occasional impotent, meaningless hand-wringing about the plight of civilians remains intact, despite overwhelming, never-ending evidence of genocidal depravity backed up by incessant genocidal rhetoric. Well, we have to keep stating the truth, because no one can be allowed to say, I did not know. People need to go to jail for what they did amidst this horror, however many years that takes for that to happen. We must never stop fighting until we get justice and accountability for what they've done, both the British and Western media and politicians. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts, your comments. Help keep us show the road at patreon.com/Jose4. Listen to this podcast. Speak to you soon.